My name is Kerry Thomas Cody, and you're listening to Fallen Hour Radio.
Hey guys, what's up? This is DC O'Rourke, host of Hauntingly Yours, and you are listening to Fallen Hour Radio.
Hey everybody, I'm Eric Freeman Sims, host of the Unseen Paranormal Podcast, and you're listening to Fallen Hour Radio.
Hi, this is the Ghost Biker, and you're listening to Fallen Hour Radio.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Do the intro this time?
You go for it.
I always ask him that, but he never does it.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Cdale, Enick. This is Markus, and we are joined tonight with special guest Miranda Young from Ghost Biker Explorations.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
If you're not of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, you're not welcome here.
In the middle of the night, ghosts try to talk to me.
It's interdimensional, so we are living in a multi-dimensional environment.
He's bending down, doing something. He says he sees a shadow. He turns around and there's nobody there.
The power of Christ compels you.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died.
I went blind, then I had an hemorrhage, and I fell asleep, and I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
How come we kill you, God?
Spider-Man, God.
First off, do you want to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, yes. So my name is Miranda Young, and I'm better known as the Ghost Biker. I travel around the country on my Harley-Davidson motorcycle to different haunted and historic locations, and I highlight them on my web series, Ghost Biker Explorations. We're rolling into our 4th season, which is going to drop here in October. And it's going to release every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And if anyone wants to catch up on the past episodes, they can do that on the Facebook and YouTube page. And, we really try to hit the small, lesser known locations. And the episodes really kind of covers the travel as well as the history of the different locations, and then also the paranormal investigations on top of that.
How long have you been going with this?
Well, with Ghost Biker, I've been going for 4 years, but as far as paranormal investigating, I've been an investigator for 14. And I started out with a team. They actually approached me because of my background in photography. I'm a graphic designer, marketing professional, and a photographer. And so I had been approached by a guy that I worked with. I didn't know he was on a team. And he approached me to look at some photography. And essentially, he really wanted me to look at it to try to debunk or come up with a logical explanation for some of the images that they had captured on some of their investigations. And so I started looking at just a couple different images and really trying to explain those. And a couple turned into, 10, 20 different images. And next thing I know, they've invited me to kind of essentially, I guess, pay me back for looking at the images. They invited me to go on an investigation.
Oh, cool.
And this investigation was of a local bar on a marina. And we had a great night. We had a lot of really unexplained activity and got some really good Class A EVPs. And then, because we had such a good investigation, they invited me to join the team. And so I investigated with them until I essentially started Ghost Biker. I found that while I was investigating with the team, we would typically investigate at least somewhere once a month, sometimes a couple places, depending on whether we were doing the larger commercial locations or the residential places. I found that I was kind of going out on my own on my motorcycle to various locations. A lot of them were more urbex type places, and taking a lot of photography. And so the photography had gathered a lot of different comments and attention on my social media pages. The places I was going, they were, like I said, most of them were urbex. Or locations that maybe had a really rich history that a lot of people didn't go and visit. And so people were asking questions about whether these locations were haunted and then kind of really what the story behind them were. So I found that I thought, why don't I document these travels rather than just doing it through the photography on social media? Why don't I document it through video? And so I sat down, formulated a marketing plan, and designed my logo, and did all of that, and created Ghost Biker. And because I had such a big role on the team of doing their photography and putting their videos out, I stepped away from the team to see where Ghost Biker would go,
And just kind of do
and
your own thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just something different, and it was really kinda hard to do both,
Mm.
and so I didn't wanna leave them hanging and wanted them to have the opportunity to get someone to fill my role there, and so yeah, I was kinda interested to see where it went, and Ghost Biker took off a whole lot quicker than I thought it would, and just continually filming and doing events at Harley Davidson's and doing a lot of really cool stuff and being able to really promote tourism and help in the preservation and restoration of these different locations by doing this. So it really just took a life of its own, and I've been enjoying it ever since.
Wow, cool. So let's hear a couple stories of yours if you have any. I want to especially jump into, I guess, your most profound paranormal experience.
Sure, sure. So as I had mentioned earlier, I really like to hit a lot of the local, more lesser known locations. I mean, I've investigated some amazing paranormal hotspots like the Lizzie Borden House and Waverly Hills, the Shining Hotel out in Estes Park. All of those different locations. I mean, they're a lot of fun, but my passion lies with the smaller, lesser known. I always tell people that you can't take a map and close your eyes and touch anywhere on that map and there not be a story associated with wherever you touch on that map. And so probably some of my most profound experiences, I did cover a house in season 2 and season 3 of I think it was the latter episodes of season 1 and the season finale of season 2, known as the Sunset Hill House. And this house was located in Charleston, Tennessee. And it actually started with an investigation of a local legend and a local story that takes place there about a monk who had perished in a train accident.
I know this one, yeah. I was hoping you're gonna tell. I was gonna ask you to tell the story actually. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. So he had perished in a train accident in the late 1860s. And it said, the entire community was a very small community. There wasn't a hospital nearby. And so a lot of the homes actually opened up, as well as the depot for the injured bodies as well as the deceased. The depot was set up as a makeshift morgue. And so during this time, it's believed that there was a monk on this train and that the doctor had actually taken the monk's body to his home, put the body in a tub, and dissolved the skin from the bones. And so after the doctor, he took a little sabbatical because there were so many dead bodies in this accident. He actually took a sabbatical for I think it was around a month to 6 weeks. And when he opened his practice back up, he had a new skeleton hanging in his office.
Oh, wow.
So he thought that the monk wouldn't have any family to come and claim the body, so that's why he ended up taking this monk's body. But we were really lucky because we investigated the train wreck site, and then I was also able to come into contact with a family who owned, I say the alleged tub. They had purchased a tub from the doctor's family at an estate sale. The tub dates back to that same time frame. So it's believed that this is the tub that the doctor used. And so I was at this abandoned home where the tub had been stored. The home had been a rental property, and the last family that they had renting this property, they had gotten to a sort of hoarding type situation. So they kicked the family out. They used the home to store their stuff, and the home had been abandoned for between 10 to 12 years. And so while I was at the property investigating this tub, I was getting so much activity coming from the level of the house was a split level. And so I was getting so much activity coming from this second level of the house. And it ended up turning into a year-long investigation for us. a case study, if you will, where I was able to go into the home about any time I wanted to and experiment and try different things. And so I was able to highlight all of this on the series. I highlighted the story with the monk. But whenever we were filming B-roll and everything, I mean, we couldn't really get a minute to film because something would happen upstairs, whether it would be the sound of something being dragged across the floor, disembodied voices. We took a REM pod up there, and it was setting our REM pod off, different alarming devices it was setting off. And so
it was always like during the times when you're not trying to catch something, you were actually catching things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we didn't know at that time if it was coming from the home or if we were getting some type of activity coming from the tub that had just sort of expanded into the home. And so after I talked to the homeowner, I found out that they had actually had occurrences. They were the first homeowner there, and they had purchased the home back in the 70s. I believe it was around 77. And they ended up moving out in the late 80s. And they still owned it, but they ended up using it as a rental property. So there had been 2 deaths on the property. One was the homeowner's second husband, and then also a lady who had rented the house. She ended up having a rare lung disease, and so she ended up passing away in the home. But they had had activity since they purchased the house in the 70s, and some of it had stemmed from a Ouija board where the young daughters had used that, and it wasn't disposed of properly, which we believe was part of the issue. But
how did they dispose of that? Like, how
they burned it?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah, I heard you're not supposed to do that.
Right. Yeah, they burned it right outside of the house, and so, like I said, they were gracious enough to let me come in. And it had gained so much attention. I think it was, I did it in episode. So episode 2 covered the story of the monk. And then 3, 4, and the season finale covered investigations there at the house. And we did a live season finale there. It was very active. I mean, this house is unlike anywhere I've ever been before. You know, most places, when you turn cameras on, whenever you go in, a lot of the time things kind of calms down. But this house, I mean, it seemed to really crave attention. And so it was always just myself and my camera guy who was in there. We never really had anyone else except for my friend Tiffany. I had invited her to come along on one occasion because she does a lot of the more darker cases that I look at times. So she goes along with me on those. And I mean, we were just getting some really crazy activity. And so after the season finale, we moved on to season 2, but we were still going back to this house and behind the scenes doing experiments. And so I'd still been getting continual communication from different people who had watched the show, who was asking me, well, what happened with the house? Did you all cleanse the house, or, you know, how was the activity resolved? And so I decided to do a live from there and have the people reach out to me with questions that they had, pre-record these questions, and then do the live and leave cameras and trigger items throughout the house overnight. And so we got great response to that. And what was supposed to be a 15-minute live ended up turning out to be an hour and a half live of just some of the most intense, crazy activity I've ever experienced.
Wow.
And when we came off the live and I went to plug the cameras in, we had also recorded the homeowner's voice asking some of these questions that the people had responded. And now she's an elderly lady. She hadn't been in the house in years. And again, we believe that one of the spirits, because there were 5 spirits in there, we believe that one of them was potentially the spirit of her deceased husband, or at least something that was possibly mimicking him. And as soon as we started playing this homeowner's voice, the floor actually started shaking underneath me.
Wow.
I've never experienced anything like that. So the floor was shaking, all of the different tools, because this house is split level. And so, so you could see the upstairs and the downstairs from the living room. And as soon as that started happening and shaking underneath me, all the flashlights, all of the tools that I had set up in all the different levels of the house starts going off. I mean, it was really,
Like
again, it was,
simultaneously?
yeah, it was like nothing I'd experienced. And when we went outside to leave, I remember looking because there were no curtains on the windows. It was like there was a party going on in the house because everything was just lighting up. It was
Crazy.
it was something that was just, I mean, it was insane. And so
That's like every
yeah,
paranormal investigator's dream right there, is for something
yeah,
like that to actually have it like that big.
Right.
Oh, I can
yeah.
only
I mean,
imagine.
this location honestly really spoiled me because, a lot of the time, you go in and it's kind of hit or miss. You never
Mm.
know if it's going to be your night. But this location, and we even did this experiment on one occasion, if you went in and you didn't address what was in there, it would get more aggressive just to try to get your attention and get you to address it.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I mean, it got real intense. And after about, I guess it was about 9 months of doing this, the homeowner, some of her family members were looking to move in, and so she was looking to remodel the house. And so she approached me and asked if I would cleanse the house, which that's not something I do.
Mhm.
I don't cleanse, I don't cross over. Essentially, what I do is if somebody contacts me to come check their house out, I come in and try to either debunk or try to get answers for what they may be experiencing.
Mhm.
And then if they can't coexist or live with what's going on, I put them in contact with somebody else that has experience with that. And I had just happened to meet Leon Wilkes, who's a demonologist, at a convention that I'd been at a few months earlier. So I reached out to him, and he kind of has a really cool background. He was trained by Dave Considine, who was trained by Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and he's one of the few. I think Ed trained or had directly under him just a very few people. Dave was one of those few, and Dave trained Leon. So I gave the case over to Leon to review to see what he thought. From what we had found, myself and my videographer who was in there, we had found that we were communicating with 5 different spirits. 2 of them seemed to be more on the negative side and more aggressive. And then the others, they just seemed to be just spirits who were potentially being oppressed
Mm.
or held down by the 2 darker entities. I don't know how dark those are. I'm not one to go in and claim demons or anything like that.
Mm.
It doesn't happen on as much of an occasion as what TV would lead you to think. It does happen, and these were, I'll just say, more aggressive. And so Leon felt that it was a case worth taking on. So he and one of his partners that he works with, they came up, and we were actually really lucky enough to be able to include this in an episode. It was the season 2 finale. They actually let us film the home exorcism, which is something that a lot of demonologists won't
Mhm.
do. But we were actually able to go in, film the we called it a home liberation, and we were able to put out tools and equipment, and I mean, it was wild. I've never experienced anything like it before, so I really didn't know what we were getting into.
Mhm.
But we captured some really crazy voices and things when he was in there doing the minor rites of exorcism. We were capturing these voices that were, really calling out some pretty nasty things. And these were voices that weren't aided by any type of ITC or any type of devices. These were just straight up EVPs that were speaking out in a mocking manner.
Wow.
And we even had the floor catch on fire with us, which was
Wow.
pretty crazy. Yeah, yeah. So it was really interesting to watch this case go from a um, a story about a local legend to a sort of a home residential case, and then also on to something to be able to see the resolution of it, because
Mhm.
it took us about 10 hours,
Wow.
and, to this day, the family, they've gone in, the house has been remodeled, and it's like a completely different house. I mean, there's nothing
It's
in
it's
there.
kind of different to see too, is having someone record or investigate while in like an exorcism is happening. And I know it's something
Yeah.
that nobody really wants to talk about, whether that's like what's happening with the exorcisms. They don't like talking about it, or
Yeah.
they kind of keep it hush hush of what happens inside of those rooms.
Yeah, and we had to be, like I said, I was really surprised he let us film and let us showcase it. We had to be very careful
Yeah.
about how we showed it. We wanted to show it in a way where we showed what was happening, but not get into all the, fine details
Right.
of what he's doing. And he was really pleased with how it was edited and put together. Because like I said, it was a 10-hour process.
Right.
And
That is pretty
you can
long.
really
Yeah.
see, yeah, you can see throughout the episode how it just sort of weighs on
Mm.
us. And, you always have to have a sign of departure when they're doing what they're doing. And, it can be something as subtle as like just a little click, or it can be something as dramatic as, the wall falling down. I mean, it can be pretty dramatic. And we had a couple, I mean, when we were looking for that sign of departure and they were calling it out, it was actually happening,
Mhm.
and, which was, like I said, amazing to me, to be able to experience that,
Ha
and, just very gracious that he allowed us to be able to showcase it
Right.
as
Is that
well.
the only exorcism you've ever been, like, kind of a part of? Or have you
It is.
It is?
It is,
Yeah.
yeah. I had never, I'm not Catholic for
Mm.
one thing, and, so it's something that, I didn't really know what to expect, what you see on TV.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it was a very, very different and interesting
I mean,
experience.
Yeah.
we've grown up in that element of being in the room while these things are happening, like exorcisms and
Well,
seeing.
we never actually called them exorcism. We
Right.
just, like,
Yeah,
basically, casting, whatever it was that's in them
yeah.
out. But, I can
Mhm.
understand, like, that feeling of, like, "Oh my god, what's happening right
Right.
now?" Because that's how I was the first time I was ever in the
Mhm.
room when something like that was happening, and
And I think in a way it could be important for someone to showcase
yeah,
something like that happening.
kinda
And
showing how
Yeah.
real it is,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had some strange things happen leading up. My videographer is actually he's not with me anymore, but during those
Mm.
first 2 seasons, my videographer is actually a popular Christian music artist.
Mm.
And so again, we didn't really know what to expect. We're both of the Christian faith,
Mm.
but we asked the demonologist what exactly we needed to do beforehand, because he told us what he was going to do, and he said, make sure you're prayed up, and he said if you choose to fast beforehand, that's fine as well. And so both myself and my videographer were at our respective jobs the day before we were supposed to go in, and I was director of marketing for a pretty big company, but I didn't have a published direct line
Mhm.
at the time, so you had to know my number to get in. And my secretary got a call, and she forwarded the call on through, and it said on it, it was just like a recording that came through, and it was from the National Center of Prayer.
Oh wow.
And it said, if you feel that you are in urgent need of prayer, please press, 1 or whatever now, and it
Right.
will take you to one of the
Yeah.
people. And of course, there was a voicemail that went through. It never even rang on my dial. So all of a sudden, I see I have this voicemail. I check it, and I'm like, well, now that's weird.
Like, that
And
can't be just
so
a coincidence,
Right.
no,
Yeah.
no, there's no such thing as
Yeah.
coincidence. And it just so happened that my videographer got a call at his job as well. And so Leon didn't know, he didn't know our work numbers
Yeah.
or anything like that. And so when I asked the receptionist what, who called, and she said, there was this really deep voiced guy and he asked to speak to Miranda. And so I forwarded him on through. and there it was as a voicemail.
Wow,
So
strange.
kind of bizarre.
That is strange.
It was God. God
Yeah.
called you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, it was really a true honor to be able to actually capture that. And he went back and watched it. We're actually he and I are both speaking on it next weekend, the first weekend in October in Las Cruces about the experience. I'm going to talk about it from the conception of it, and then he's going to talk about where he picked up on it from the exorcism or the home liberation point of view.
That's really cool.
And
That is pretty cool.
it was really interesting. And he had said he had never had anyone go through with equipment while he was doing that. I think we had an SLS camera. Of course, we had flashlights, REM pod. But to me, it was those voices that we were able to just pull out of the air that I thought was very interesting and intriguing, because like when he was saying the rites, I mean, we would have stuff that was essentially mocking God and really mocking him. And it was, I mean, you really realize just how real the things you're dealing with when that happens. And as cool as that house was, and as intriguing as a case as it was, I'm really glad it was over, because for me personally, I found that I was almost getting obsessed with going there and trying to, I mean, because they were so interactive.
Yeah, it's a pretty common thing, actually. Like you start kind of gaining an obsession with that kind of thing and want to keep going back for more. Like it's drawing you in a way. But
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, I was to the point, I was going to even try sleeping there a couple times, having the recorders and stuff going. Yeah, just different things to try to see what activity. And it was really getting dangerous when you start looking at the different things that we were capturing. I mean, it was very familiar with me. Very few places call me by my name. And I would go in and I would get things that would tell me I was going to die, and tell me, just calling me out and saying just really awful things. And, like I said, just they were just wanting the interaction.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad to see that case come to an end. And we may put it out as a documentary at some point, just because it did consume so much time and so much of the first 2 seasons.
That'd be really cool, actually.
Yeah, we have a lot of. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, we definitely have a lot of behind the scenes stuff, that we haven't shown to people, because like I said there in the beginning, for me, a lot of it is telling the history and telling the story. I do love an interesting dark case, and a lot of the time, if I have the opportunity in each season, I will try to visit at least one location that has sort of a dark history or a dark story to it. But for me, for the most part, that's not really what I go seeking out and looking for. And so it was just really something different than what we've covered in other seasons. And it would be cool to show just everything that went into this. And so that may be something that comes out during season 5.
That'd be really awesome.
I was trying to have him fix our camera because it's all bright as hell.
I think you just probably maybe cut a light or so. It'd probably be fine.
I had this camera set up, and we had to replug it in. Now we're all white as hell looking. Yeah. It's okay though.
Now you have some really interesting
go.
Techniques that you use.
Should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, but what you use smoke bombs, right? Smoke bombs?
I do. Yeah, I try to look at different options. And of course, being on the motorcycle and such, I do have to plan really accordingly for the trip. But yeah, those particular cases, so that house, it didn't have any power in it. And we were trying to figure out what we could use, because we thought early on that there was potentially a portal down in the basement. And so we thought, well, what can we use to essentially see this? And I had read I can't remember what I had read, or if it was my friend Tiffany that was talking about it, that was saying that there's the theory that smoke can sometimes show a portal. And so we thought, well, why not try it and see? Because really, in paranormal, there's no dumb experiment, the dumbest ones are the ones you don't try. And so yeah, we set up smoke bombs in the basement there, which I don't recommend depending on the location. But we did set it up there and set a camera up to see if we could capture anything that would potentially have any type of swirling effect or just anything kind of odd.
Yeah.
And it was sort of it was a pretty cool experiment just to kind of watch and see if that did. We did that on 2 occasions. We did it for the episode, and then we also did it in our live season finale. And yeah, it was cool to have other people watching to see if they saw anything as well.
That's something I haven't heard before. Is someone using smoke bombs? That's pretty cool.
I haven't heard of that until actually you. So I was like, I thought that was really cool.
I feel like it's something we would do and then be like, we didn't think this out, Markus.
Well, I mean, we've heard that has happened, and a lot of places won't let you use candles or anything like that. But we've used candles there in that location. I've used them on a couple different places just to see if we can get something to either blow the candle out or to even get it to move. Like people will talk about feeling a cool breeze.
Yeah.
Well, what better way than, trying to test that is if, you can have a camera or a candle there. So we were thinking the same thing with the smoke bombs. And it was a fun experiment to try, and it was fun to go back and watch the footage to see. I've had a couple other people mention that, but I've like you, I've not seen anyone else do that.
Right. That's funny. So we wanted to ask you, especially since you're a paranormal investigator, what do you believe you're experiencing out there? Like, what do you think if you come across a spirit, like, what do you think that is?
That's a great question. And honestly, my theories on that change as the more I do this. They kind of evolve. I kind of have 2 theories on it. I do believe that a lot of the time we're encountering energy that is potentially left behind. Or the other thought on that could be that, wherever we go when we die, whether it be heaven or hell or a waiting place, I believe it's possibly closer than what we think it is.
Right.
That it's potentially, all around us, and that, some people just are able to speak through that to us. I don't always necessarily believe that when we're in the moment that it is the soul of that person necessarily.
Right.
I tend to believe more that it's energy, because I am of the Christian faith, and I do believe that, when we die, we go on to somewhere else.
Right.
But again, that somewhere else could be a little bit closer than what we realize.
And it's been a discussion of ours for the past, this past season has been all about trying to explain, especially what people are experiencing, whether that's smelling someone's scent in the house or having a certain object in the house move
or voice a certain voice
that's attached to that person. And we always try to pull in biblical text and these different texts because we grew up Christian as well. And there's really no other way for me anyways to explain certain things. And then when we jump into those, it's kind of interesting too, because we'll jump into those texts and then we'll pull from other cultures and say okay, so there's other explanations and these kind of correlate, or they kind of, defy each other. And then we try to figure that out. And it's a really interesting topic for the past season.
Yeah, and that's what I love to hear, because again, the more I do this, the more I don't know, my theories, I guess, sort of evolve.
Right.
I've heard some great ones as far as other dimensions and that sort of thing. And I don't know. I guess that's possible, like a time slip or something. That's not necessarily something I subscribe to, even though, I feel I'm pretty open-minded, but kind of like you said, it to me, I'm with my background, it's strengthened my faith doing this. And I've seen little things. I guess what's always interesting to me is when you know someone's personality or know the person, and then you start seeing things that are attached to that person start moving, and or something start happening that is directly attached to that person. So I don't know. that's hard for me to explain other than the fact that it just seems like they can communicate in different ways. You know,
Right.
some of them have the ability to be able to manifest. Some it is more through a scent or through, being able to speak. Um, I don't know. I guess for me, I would have to say energy, or again that heaven or hell is a little bit closer than we think.
Right, because I think we're never going to know unless we die,
Right.
and then for now we're just going to be trying to find like
And
the
then you
right
can't tell
explanation.
anybody, but
Right,
Well, and that's an interesting fact too, because and I've had several other investigators tell me this, that there's been a couple times because I'll start asking questions like that. Like, I really want to know if they can see me,
yeah.
if when I'm doing things, not just necessarily getting an answer, but it's like, can you see me? How many fingers am I holding up? I'll take a whiteboard with me and write on the whiteboard and see if I can get them to say the word, or I'll write knock and see if I can get them to knock. So I'm more interested, I guess, in that interaction in the moment rather than necessarily trying to capture words of a story to identify maybe who it is. Um, but I'm finding that, and several other investigators have said this too. I've asked, can you tell me, where you are and what's going on? And I've captured before where they've said, talked about rules or said I can't. And I've spoken with 3 other investigators without telling them what I just told you.
Mhm.
They've said the same thing, that one captured something that said there's rules. And so it makes you wonder if they can tell us,
right.
for whatever
that's really
reason.
Like
strange.
break the rules and tell you about what's happening,
or what the consequences would be for
Right.
breaking those
Right.
rules is what. Yeah, that's what I'm
I was-
interested in.
I was fascinated when I got that response, and
Yeah.
and when other investigators have got that as well. And so it kind of makes you wonder, what are they bound by? What can, what can they say and why can't they say it?
So if you think like if you believe that they're like energy, do you take things for them to actually drain to gain energy to manifest or do things for you?
I do sometimes. I mean, as an investigator, a lot of the time, we'll suffer energy drain on, phones and
Oh, yeah.
and different tools. But I've taken such things as energy balls. Oh, my words are escaping me. The energy pumps. We've taken some EMF pumps to see if that affects. And then sometimes it just seems like on our own bodies we'll
Yeah.
have energy drain as well.
Right.
And honestly, that's why I like using the dowsing rods for that reason, because you do use yourself, and you don't have to worry about the intense battery drain of the different tools. And they are a familiar tool to a lot of the spirits that we're talking to, at least over here in the Southeast.
Mhm.
A lot of people have used those. So, but yeah, I always try to take different trigger items and then different items that could also be used as an energy pump or energy drainer.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, because we've experienced that quite a bit too, like our cameras and phones and stuff just draining, and then something would happen. Like there was
Yeah.
once where actually the person that's behind the camera, he was trying to get our equipment going, and everything was going wrong, and then a shot glass flipped out of the dish strainer, and that whole night was just so freaking creepy. It was funny. We like didn't even want to record. Like it's always with a certain subject we get into, it's
Right.
stuff like that happens, and it's just wow, man. That
I
night
mean,
was
and
just
it was kind of a strange night too, because before we bought up like all this new equipment, then we had to use these computers to record our podcasts, and it was funny because we were having the same issues on my computer, and then your computer, and then Aaron's computer,
his computer,
and then there was like a weird delay, and like our voices are going deeper.
I think it was that night. My brother, he lives upstairs. The only person that lives upstairs, it's a duplex, and he was at work, and there was a woman crying upstairs with nobody up there, and that happened more than once. Like
Yeah,
it's so often that we have to call him and say, "Hey, are you home?" And he says, "No, I'm not here." And oh, it's happening again. And we hear like people running around. And, oh, my
It's
God.
creepy.
It gets pretty gross in this house.
It's like every time we have a subject, then we experience something along the lines of what we're talking about in that for the topic.
It kind of starts manifesting on its own.
Like we were talking about, we're going to do a La Llorona podcast, and me and my wife experienced a girl crying outside, and
it was actually
that's
what inspired that next subject, because we were trying to like think of what was going to happen, and that I think it was the night before or after I was asleep. I used to live out of town and literally in the middle of nowhere, nothing but fields around me, and nobody knew where I lived because I recently just moved there. And I had the window open and I was sleeping, and right outside the window somebody was crying and started calling my name. And I literally, it happened like twice. You know, I shook my wife and asked her, hey, you know, you hear the girls crying? I never tell her what's going on because she gets scared so easily. So, hey, maybe one of the girls are crying, and she was kind of, you know, no, I don't hear anything. And I was thinking maybe it was sleep paralysis, but I started hearing it again, and I sat up, and I was wide awake sitting up, and I heard it cry my name again outside. And
so creepy.
No, I just started shaking her like, wake up, there's something here. But yeah, like after that, you know, like my father told me a similar story, and he told me, you know, not to go outside, you know, when you hear that, because there's a whole story behind it. It's there's an episode in our podcast about it, but yeah, that was one of the creepiest experiences I've ever had.
But we
you know, I got something like that at Old South Pitt Hospital, just crying in the halls, and I had a recorder sitting outside, and it was in the hall. You can hear me talking briefly on the inside before I go to sleep, and it's you know, real muffled because I'm behind a door, and then you hear this sound of, I thought it was residual, but now it didn't say my name, but it was crying, and I got, please let me see him. Just this sobbing, crying.
Wow.
And now if I'd have heard that, I would have been tempted to go out and check. But to me, it made me think of something that was there at the hospital, like someone who had had an accident or something, and somebody was trying to see them. But that was
it
when I was sleeping.
Was that audible, or was? Oh wait, no, you were asleep.
I was asleep.
Okay. I was going to say, was that audible or just on the recording? But you were asleep still.
Yeah. And I like to sleep at some of these locations sometimes. Now I'll do a full scale investigation, but if it's one where I can be there for, 12 hours, 10 hours, whatever, I like to investigate as long as I can and then lay down to sleep, because I find that I get a lot of different activity when I go to sleep and have the cameras and audio running, whether it be because you're in that more vulnerable state. Yeah. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe some of them are intimidated or something and they don't want to speak until, you're in that different state. I'm not sure, but the activity is so much more different when I sleep in a location versus whenever I'm doing active investigation.
There's a theory. Well, I've actually only heard one person talk about this, and he was a prophet. And I think you'll enjoy this since you have a Christian background, is Elijah, when he was going on his trip, and this is like before the ravens, I think, God told him to lay down and sleep, and so he can get through. And it's like, I guess it's like the best state for you to hear God's voice, I guess. And I guess that probably works with spiritual energy as well.
That's really cool. I hadn't thought of it that way, but
that's right. Okay.
I really like that, because I like to, if I can, I like to try to parallel that or look at it from, the biblical perspective. And I'm going to be thinking about that from now on whenever I
got to go back and read
about
most
Elijah.
Of
your spiritual battles are actually taking place is when you're
sleeping.
Yeah. Well, and that's part of too why I kind of wonder if what we're dealing with could be closer, because was it Elijah that God had him he opened his eyes and he saw all of the angels and demons that were fighting going on around. Yeah, I can't remember if that was Elijah or Elisha.
I can't remember either.
There was one. Yeah, he had opened his eyes. He was standing there on the mountain and he had opened his eyes and he saw all the battles that were raging around. Yeah, so that's kind of where I take that theory from, is that there's really more going on around us than what we see. I mean, and I really feel like there's a lot more spiritual activity that people encounters. They just don't take the time to really listen.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, because it happens day or night. And a lot of the time we're just so consumed with everything going on that we don't, you know, really hear what's going on unless we're paying attention. So I think there's more that goes on than what we realize.
So it's kind of like just laying down and like shutting your mind off. You can't like talk back or fight back and just experience it, I guess. It's funny. That's kind of why I like bringing that into the podcast too, is like, that's why I like doing that, because it explains a lot in certain different experiences.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, probably one of the best experiences, some of the best Class A EVPs I had ever captured was the time I slept there in solitary confinement in Brushy Mountain Prison. And I've investigated Brushy Mountain on 6 different occasions, and I've had some really incredible activity there. I saw my first shadow figure there after we had listened to some Indian spiritual music, and there was 9 of us on that particular occasion that saw this shadow figure, which was amazing just for all of us to see it at once. And none of our cameras worked, which I firmly believe that had someone had a live going or had a camera going, we probably wouldn't have experienced this. But on this one particular occasion, I think it was the 3rd time I had investigated there. It was part of a full weekend investigation. The first night I investigated alone. The second night I investigated with multiple teams, and we saw that shadow figure. But I laid down to sleep in the solitary confinement area. And this area was where they kept the worst of the worst. And it was called the hole because it was literally down in a hole. It was dark, whether it was daytime or not. And I slept for 3.5 hours, and I got 3 minutes and 15 seconds of some of the best intelligent and residual EVPs I've ever captured. Everything from heavy footsteps walking through the hall to something that came up to my cell door and whispered night night to me.
Wow. God.
Yeah, it was as
That's
clear
creepy.
as can be. And I slept the best I've ever slept. I hit the bed and I was out. And we caught that. I caught voices. So the walls there are this, you know, really thick stone walls in between, and captured these muffled voices of men going between the cells. And the only people who were on the property was myself, and then there were 2 other females who were asleep back at base camp, and they're the ones who run the paranormal there. Brushy Mountain is now open as a tourist attraction. They also have a distillery in there. But at this particular time, the distillery was not built, the restaurant was not there, and there was no power in the entire prison.
Wow.
You've got the walls that go around, and then the prison complex inside the walls. And the hole is actually its own little complex behind the wall there. And so laundry is up on the level above, and the wood shop is to the level beside of the cells there. And I captured what sounded like the laundry door opening and laundry running. And again, there was no power there. So,
yeah, that's strange.
I believe that was residual. And then the other really weird thing that night that I captured was what sounded like something bouncing a ball from like a little rubber ball from the cell to the wall. And it was just this continual sound, repetitive sound that went for 5 minutes and like 15 seconds back and forth. And after I talked to and I just thought it sounded like a ball. And so I was talking to a security guard, or excuse me, a former prison guard. And he said that during that time, during the late 70s, early 80s, that was something that they would actually give prisoners because it was something that they couldn't easily fashion into some type of shank and use. So it was not uncommon for prisoners to have little rubber balls. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing that always kind of racks my brain is like all the residual things that happen, like replaying over and over, and like the whole stone tape theory and everything. That's what kind of really, really racks my brain. Like I don't understand that, like how that works, but
right.
That's what gets me. I mean, everything else, like the more intelligent, entities and stuff like that, spirits, that is more tangible, and I can fathom that. I know is real, but the whole residual thing, that just confuses me how that works. Like, I mean, I know I've seen a lot of evidence on it and everything, and I believe it's really happening and it's out there, but it's just how it works is what gets me. I don't understand that.
That's what I
Right.
don't understand.
Yeah.
And I think there's a fine line too, because so if we're using trigger items,
Mhm.
then it seems like if you trigger something, it seems like it would be intelligent at
Yeah.
that point. But we've found sometimes, and I kind of question if it's intelligent or residual, to use certain trigger items to trigger a residual, if that makes sense.
Funny, yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of hard. It seems like it would have to be intelligent to trigger it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We've had that happen where, it's kind of hard to distinguish. We'll use. I love to use trigger items, and we'll use something, but then it seems like it almost triggers a residual type response,
Mhm.
which I guess you could debate whether it's intelligent or not at that point, but it seems to be intelligently triggered, I guess.
That's kind of funny though. It's like residual. It's like a memory playing, right?
Yeah. It's just
Where
replay.
it's just happening. And if you were to pull like a trigger item and from that time period, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of
Or either
strange.
from that time period or from that location.
Wow, strange.
One thing no, you can go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
One thing I've heard was it's almost like stone tape theory, but it's not like a residual replay of something going, but actual noises and sounds from radio waves playing in the walls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a possibility till I was listening to I think it was Darren Marlar who was talking about it on one of his shows, but somebody recognized his voice. And they had no power in the house, I believe, and they actually, you can hear it. They videotaped it, and you can hear his voice
funny.
in there, and it's literally Darren Marlar. Like he's alive. He's actually going to be joining us too on this series. So, like, I think it was him. I want to say it was Darren Marlar, but that kind of like blew my mind. Like hearing radio waves playing through the walls or something.
Right.
Like,
I don't even think I want to even try to even get into the conversation of how that's possible.
I know. I was trying to like
I'll be stuck
figure
here
that
for a
out
while.
too, but like, yeah, somebody thought they were hearing a ghost or their place was haunted, and it turned out it was these radio waves playing through the walls somehow.
Right.
And it's just so strange.
Wow.
I that one gets me. Like, it's pretty crazy. So like all these things, there's all these different things that are possible, like explanations and everything. Like, I know there's, like I said, there's intelligent, spirits and entities out there, but that also can be an explanation for something, for people thinking it's haunted. It could be something like that. But.
Right. But I don't know if that would happen intelligently. Like,
well, yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like, it's just one explanation. That
right.
could be. That's
You're trying to make me work through it now. I'm trying to like think.
I know it really makes you stop and think
Yeah.
on some of that, because I mean, I feel like most things can be explained, just like most photos. If you go and you take 800 photos, if you get 2 or 3 that are unexplainable, then you're really lucky at that point. And I've gone on investigations where people have hundreds of photos, and it's like, I mean, most of the time those things can be explained or debunked just by looking at it critically. I feel like the same way. And so I'm always open, and my mind is always blown sometimes by when people share certain things like that, like hearing the radio waves. It's hard for me to understand, but I guess anything is possible.
Like, what's your mindset going into investigation? Do you go in skeptical? Do you go in with like an open mind, or like how do you go about that?
I have a pretty open mind. I mean, I would definitely call myself, I don't want to say a skeptical believer, but I definitely go in trying to find a logical explanation,
Right.
but also thinking anything is possible. And so when something happens, I do try to recreate the situation if possible. Like when I first go in, I always try to take a ton of pictures during the daylight and in a more relaxed setting, so that I'm not in there in like a, in the heat of the moment, things look different, shadows look different. It's hard. I mean, the human mind is not good
Mhm.
as a witness, to be able to say how things are in a room. And so, so I always try to go in and document as much as I can just for that purpose, so that if when I'm filming or actually investigating, if I see something, I can go back and reference. And then also really just, I try to really account for outside noise I try to cover, I have a lot of cameras, so I try to cover doorways, I try to cover outside, I try to kind of see how things are just to account for, I guess the obvious stuff, of any type of noise or light contamination.
Right.
So for me, I go in with anything as possible, but that, try not to get too wrapped up in it just because you never know, but really kind of look at it and see if I can find a logical explanation. And sometimes I can't. Not that I know it all, because I don't, but
Right.
I try to see if I can find an explanation for it. And I'll tell you, something, and it's something that I do. I haven't done on any of my episodes yet, because for me it's more of a special type experience at these locations. But I am an artist, and so a lot of the time I draw the different locations before I go. I draw a lot of buildings, and so sometimes when I'm in a location, if you've got like a white noise maker going, or just kind of sitting there trying to listen, I always try to, sometimes I feel like I can I'll see certain things. I mean, I am not psychic. I'm not an empath or anything like that. But I can sometimes see, when I'm in the moment, certain things, see kind of like features and such.
Mhm.
And so I thought that since I can draw, I thought, why don't I sit down and try drawing what I'm doing or what I'm seeing, and see if I can match it up. And so, I always, when I started experimenting with this, I would always kind of have a conversation with the spirits in the room or anyone that was in there, and tell them what I was trying to do. So I kind of liken it to automatic writing,
Mhm.
but it's a drawing thing. And so I was up at Octagon Hall in Franklin, Kentucky, and I was sitting there drawing, and I had a REM pod, a couple K2 meters, an EDI box, and I did not have an SB7. I believe those were the flashlights. Flashlights were what I had as well. And so I had everything kind of sitting up in that room, and I was in the summer kitchen where the slaves would typically cook. And so I said, I want to try to draw something that's recognizable. So if you can give me some features, that's what I want to try to do. And so I started seeing these different things like high cheekbones, kind eyes. And when I would see it, I would ask on the meters, I would say, I'm seeing, these high cheekbones. If you have high cheekbones, can you light up one of the meters? And so I would never see what the full features look like, but I would just kind of sit and just draw. So I never knew if it was a male, female, or who I was drawing as I was sitting there drawing it. So I ended up drawing this man. He had kind of a salt and pepper beard. I couldn't see hair. And so I asked I said, are you wearing a hat? And so all of a sudden the meters started lighting up, because I'd ask if they were bald, just asking different questions about it. So yeah, they were wearing a hat. And I ended up drawing like this kind of floppy fisherman type hat. So this was part of a 2-night investigation, and excuse me. And so this was the first night, about 5 a.m. And after the investigation was over, I went back to the hotel, slept, came back to investigate for the second day. And one of the guys that was there during the investigation said, hey, Miranda, I want you to come check this out. Because this is when I was part of a team before I was doing Ghost Biker.
Mhm.
And so I went to the front of the house, and there was the man I drew.
Wow.
Yeah, and
He was
so
alive.
come to find out, he was
Yeah.
alive. He was alive. And come to find out, this guy was he was a member of a team, and he was at that location usually about every day. He was there, and he had a very strong connection with the spirits. And apparently, he had said that there was some doppelganger type activity, but he also said, I mean, he had been working there for quite some time. I'd been investigating there. I've never met him, and yeah, we've got a picture of us together. I mean, it's down to the wrinkles on his face. I mean, everything.
Wow.
And he was wearing that same hat. So it was pretty wild. And I've been able to match up on. I've done this 5 times, and I've been able to match up on 3 different occasions.
Wow.
Wow.
The other time was at a church, and the pastor had us come in. We'd done the investigation, and so I asked the pastor. I said, why don't you get up and preach a sermon, just a little quick sermon. He got up, started preaching, and I always do these drawings in the dark. And so I was sitting there doing this drawing, and in my mind, I thought I was going to be drawing this man. I actually ended up drawing a little boy. And when I showed it to the pastor, he knew exactly. Him and the secretary were the ones that were there. And so they actually took me across the street, and we matched up the picture on the tombstone. The boy was a boy who had gone to that church, and he had actually passed away in a 4-wheeler accident.
Oh, wow.
He crashed head on with another 4-wheeler. And so, I mean, the glasses, the hair, everything was identical. And honestly, I have no idea how to explain that, because again, I am not by no means psychic or anything like that, but it was really cool. And that's why I've not put it on a video, because to me, I feel like it's something that's been kind of a special communication that I've done. I have spoken about it on several different occasions, but yeah, it really kind of freaked me out when it happened. And then to have actually been able to meet someone that was alive.
Yeah.
And so I really can't explain it other than the fact that maybe, the spirits that were in the room, because they have such a connection with this guy, Barry Gaunt is his name, that they had a connection with him, that maybe they described him rather than someone who had passed on. I really don't know.
Yeah, the same thing happened with Amy Allen, right?
Right. Yeah. I just had.
Really?
Is this what you're talking about, Aaron? What she's talking about experiencing is remote viewing.
Yeah, remote viewing.
Okay, so
That's what it's called? Okay.
He just sent me a text message and was saying this is probably what you're experiencing. It's remote viewing. So, remote viewing is the practice of seeking impressions about a distant or unseen target. Sensing with the mind. Remote viewing experiments have historically been criticized a lack of proper controls repeatedly. Probably like what, sketching and stuff. Is that what it is?
Yeah, a lot of times they'll listen to like white noise and sketch stuff, and
yeah,
the government actually used it to try to catch terrorists at one time.
Oh, wow. Funny! Oh, I've heard about this. Yeah.
Wow. See, I haven't heard about that.
That's really cool.
That's wild.
See, Aaron's helpful back there.
I know. I saw him like flash something at me. I was trying to read it. I was like,
I'll send
his
you guys.
phone was moving.
I'll send you the picture.
Okay.
that I did. The Barry, I've published that. I have not published the young kid but I'll send that to you. I haven't published that just because he is, a minor.
Yeah.
And the investigation of the church was one of those where we didn't publicize that we were in the church. So
if you're ever open to it, I've been trying to collect things like this. So maybe in the future, if you have something cool that you've drawn, that'd be awesome to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gaining a collection.
Yeah, I just picked up an artifact from a archaeologist, and it's a little, like a mummy figure that was inside
a pharaoh. I think
like a pharaoh that was in a tomb down there somewhere, and it was taken out from grave robbers or something, and then they ended up. I don't know. I think he found it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, in Egypt.
Yeah, but creepy item. But
very cool.
But that's awesome. It's kind of cool to see that are you developing that gift? Like, is it something you're working on developing, or is?
Yeah, I'm trying to, because like I said, I wasn't really sure how to use it, because it kind of started with, let me see what I can do, because it always happens usually when I'm listening to some type of white noise or really just trying to sit silently doing EVPs. I'll just kind of start to, I thought I was starting to fall asleep is what I thought was because it's just, almost going into a
Mhm.
trance. And I would just kind of start to see little things. And so I thought, well, I mean, I've always been an artist. So it's like, I mean, why don't I try drawing what I see? But then it really turned into because I don't see full feet I mean, a full person
Mhm.
if at that point. It really just starts with revealing just small pieces. Like it may be like thin lips or, again, like kind
It's like a
eyes or
puzzle.
high cheekbones. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and so I was trying to do it with the tools, and then other times I'll just sit there and I'll just do it and, see what happens.
That's
Wow.
really
Like when
cool.
when the pastor was preaching, I didn't have any of the tools sitting there. It was interesting because when I sat down to draw, something hit my paper, and so the whole sanctuary lights were off. The pastor was standing up at the pulpit preaching, and I turned a flashlight on, and, it was like a little staple had just fallen out of nowhere
Wow.
onto my sketch pad, and so I set it aside. Then after I drew the kid, it really kinda made sense that it was like, okay, so, it makes you think of, like, the kid sitting in the pew in front of you at church that just kinda turns around and just kinda flips something at you,
Right.
So yeah, it's really cool, but it's very cool when you're able to match it up, and
Yeah.
and I completely went into it thinking, "I'm not gonna be able to match this up,"
Yeah.
and, yeah, when it happened, it's almost like a sick excitement in a way,
Right.
and, so, but yeah, I'm really wanting to kinda develop this further and see where I've talked to a few different people that do the automatic writing, but I had never talked to anyone that had done the sketching
I've
before.
seen horror movies on the writing, where it's like opens up like
Yes.
just demons coming in and stuff.
Mhm.
There was one I watched. It's called Paranormal Entity, but I haven't seen it anywhere. I like ever since I watched it, I
I
can't
think I
find
have
it.
that movie actually.
It's creepy. You gotta if you watch it, you gotta or if you find you gotta watch it. Maybe it'll probably I don't know.
I've not seen that.
Don't let it discourage you from learning your gift though.
It's Hollywood.
Right.
That's right,
So
that's right. It's tough to distinguish sometimes when you see all the stuff in Hollywood of what it's like versus what it's really like.
right.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Does that do it for you? Are you? That's been about an hour now. So and I don't want to hold you too long. So
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm working on season 4,
oh,
so
cool.
I've, gotta get back to editing.
Can we
Yeah, trying to
can we get you back later in October or maybe
Sure,
because I
sure.
think I'd want to redo this with better lighting than that.
Sure, yeah,
So
you let me know 'cause,
I told him too. I said that's too much light. No, we need all the light.
no, it's the freaking
Kicked
camera
it on,
though.
it
It's
was
the
so bright.
I had this I had the camera set to like auto with like adjust
Yeah.
to like the light, but it's stupid. It's a
Right,
webcam.
and I
So.
kicked. I was like, I knew it. I knew that was gonna
You can't even see us. We're just blurred
just
out.
see eyes.
I know. So
Yeah, no, that's fine.
cool. So everyone who's watching at home, you just got to deal with us being like this. We have another camera running too, so it's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So right. So do it for you. Any more questions? Anything got to?
Well, if you're coming back, I mean, I know they're gonna start rolling
I
in.
know.
It always happens.
So let's go back to tell everyone where they can find you on social media and what you got coming up.
Yeah, so the best place to find me is on the Ghost Biker Explorations Facebook page or the Ghost Biker Explorations YouTube channel. You can also find everything from my drawings, Ghost Biker merchandise, different Harley Davidson events and stuff that we're doing. You can find all of that on www.ghostbikerexplorations.com, and then also on Instagram under Runaway Vixen. You can see some of my photography. Also, I just entered into a business partnership with Dr. Christy Sumner from Soul Sisters Paranormal.
Oh, cool.
And we have opened, we've opened the historic Scott County
Yeah,
Jail.
that's right.
And yeah. So this location, we have a true crime museum in there, as well as a tribute to local law enforcement. Well, actually, not just local, but also all law enforcement. And it's also open for paranormal investigations. So, and that can be found under the historic Scott County Jail. Facebook page, and www.historicscottcojail.com.
Awesome. Well, I guess that does it for us. So my name is Cdale Enick. This is Markus, and our special guest tonight was Miranda Young of Ghost Biker Explorations. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Awesome.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
If you're not of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, you're not welcome here.
In the middle of the night, ghosts try to talk to me.
It's interdimensional, so we are living in a multi-dimensional environment.
He's bending down, doing something. He says he sees a shadow. He turns around and there's nobody there.
The power of Christ compels you.
I want you to tell me whether you remember what happened to you when you died.
I went blind then. I had an hemorrhage and not fell asleep. And I died in a chair in the corner downstairs.
How come you kill you, girl?
Spider-Man!